The mandate of the Men's Resource Center is to provide counseling services to men who identify stressors and trauma in their lives.
Going to the MRC was probably the best decision I've ever made in my life. It was hard at first to take that first step of acknowledging I needed help, but after that, I got the help I needed. As a guy, it's hard to take that first step and realize that you need that help, and I would encourage other guys just to do the same thing because it worked for me.
I think that men's issues kind of get overlooked because men are supposed to be kind of these strong, self-reliant kind of people who don't need to access these kinds of counseling services. That the counseling services are for people who are weak and for people that need help and that they can't do things on their own. And I think that again, that's a fallacy. And it's so predominant that the importance of men's services hasn't really reached that policy level at a governmental level. So again, like a service like this, I think it's a great sign, it's a great first start, but I think that more attention needs to be put towards services for men.
So for men, I think they're often really surprised to find that they can come to the Men's Resource Center and sit in a group with other men and not be judged for the personal difficulties that they're trying to address. That by itself is often a transformative experience for men, to break down that isolation, the competition to see who's the toughest, who's the strongest, who can hide their pain the most effectively. The connections that men form, sometimes in a very short period of time, based on very little information, just to know that they're not alone, has a lot of power for them. And so that safety of not being judged for having a personal difficulty can go an awful long way for men.
Our clients represent a cross-section, comes from all walks of lives. It's for all men in our province. That's who is our clientele and who meets the mandate of our agency and who needs our help. This is our clients. I think at one time in our lives, all of us, we need some assistance to be able to move forward. And it is important when you are at that point, just call our office and you will be able to tell us your story and we will refer you to the appropriate program. When we're talking about the word family, it means belonging. Belonging to a place, belonging to a group, and belonging to a healthy type of a style. And that's what's the Men's Resource Center. It is the family for the men to be able to belong to a place that will allow them to heal. Some of their healing journey might be long, but yet we are here to walk with them through that healing journey. Feeling alone, it's an issue that many people face it sometime in their lives when the stress are really very high. They feel that they're alone and nobody have the same issues as they are. Yet when they come here for the group sessions and they listen to other men and they share that story with them, they will notice immediately that they are not alone and they can build and support each other through the group counseling.
The first session is more introductory than anything else, but the second session you feel more comfortable, and as the sessions progress, it gets better and better. It's not intimidating. You may feel intimidated a bit, but not really intimidating. Some people do drop out. Some people think it's not for them, but it is for them, whether they realize it or not. It does help a lot.
So we'll have men who are, some men in the group who are troubled by the impact of childhood traumas, like childhood sexual abuse. We'll have other men who are troubled by the stress of a separation or divorce process, or men who may have been having difficulty with their employment or with other mental health issues. And what's the fact that men are coming together to try to improve their life situation is often a really strong uniting element to the group.
Because once you meet the other men in the group who have experienced similar circumstances, and it's just, you don't feel alone because you're sharing back and forth, and that's very important to share with someone like that. It's nothing you can share with someone of the general public or a relative or a friend. You want to share with someone who's had the experience, and which is the best part. Through the group sessions, it gave me confidence in myself. The self-esteem sessions were very helpful, and it made you feel you're not alone in what you're trying to accomplish. You're in a when you're being abused, it's a no-win situation because of circumstances, but when you're here talking to counselors and other men, you know you're getting somewhere. You're accomplishing something for yourself. The sexual abuse is a one-time thing, but the physical abuse went on for a number of years, going to a small community school and being the smallest kid around, and it happened for 4 or 5 years, every couple days. I thought it was part of life. You just get beat up. But that's not how life is. And there was nobody to talk to about it. That went on for a long time. And all these things got locked away until you start sharing it. Then you unlock it. And the door opens and look out.
I think that this center, and I'm confident it'll reach out and positively impact other victims and survivors of sexual abuse. We know there's no shortage of them. The numbers are staggering. 1 in 6 boys is sexually assaulted, sexually abused before the age of 18. And those are the reported statistics. Those are not the real statistics, because we know that so many men don't talk about those things ever in their lifetime. One of the reasons I think I wrote the book about my own personal story was to let other people know that they're not alone. At the age of 10 years old, my parents took in a boarder. They took in a person that was going to pay rent, and they were going to provide meals, that sort of thing. And that individual skillfully gained the trust and confidence of my family. And over the next several years of my life, he would perpetrate his crimes against me, violating me countless times. His skillful manipulation allowed him to go undetected for years. In effect, he had basically secured my silence. It wouldn't be until I was well into my 30s that I would talk about this with anyone. Everybody in this room has a past. They all carry with us, we all carry with us kind of a box of stuff. And in that box is your history. There's some good things that happen to you, they're in there, and there's some bad things that happen to you, and those things are in there. And I always looked at that box of stuff as being kind of behind me. As I got on the police service, I knew that it was starting to catch up to me. And there was a time where I was going to need to sort through it. You're going to have to pour that stuff out, and you're going to have to look at it, but you're probably going to need help to do that. It's very, very complex. And I think that in effect, that's what this place offers to people. And that's a very, very, very important thing for people to be able to do that at some point. At some point in your life, you are going to have to examine that stuff. And it is very difficult to look at it, and the expectation that we could do all this on our own when our lives are as complicated as they are, I think is unrealistic.
What we're learning over the last decade in particular, I guess, is that there are a lot more men who have suffered abuse than we would have known. Men have tended to suppress that. We like to think we're strong and we can deal with all these things, and it's not the case. Sheldon Kennedy, Ron Bilton has done a wonderful job presenting here today, and he's written a book that I'm sure very profound. The trauma that children have suffered, male and female, and of course the males have probably just thought, well, I'll just lock it away somehow and don't talk about it, and that doesn't help. And hopefully I know this organization here, the Men's Resource Center, will help men will come forward and be able to deal with it and kind of unlock that box, as Ron said, and deal with some of those past things.
If there's support and additional resources available to victims to get them to work through that and get them to the point where they trust, police enough that they will make a report and then we can investigate it. And if a resource center such as the Men's Resource Center helps with that process, it's very important to I guess, for police to work with that resource, but most importantly, it's very important for the victim.
And if we look at it in terms of unresolved trauma from childhood sexual abuse manifesting and impacting someone's life in present day as an adult, and we all carry our stories with us, and how that manifests in our lives affects those around us.
I lost my children when they were 10 and 12 years old. I lost them to the court system. There was nothing that could fill that void, that sense of loss. I didn't know what to do. There's no greater pain for a parent, a father, to lose your kids. It left a hole in my life, and it was a hole I never seemed to be able to fill. I couldn't talk to friends because they were tired of hearing my bad luck or hard luck story. I didn't know what to do. I had nowhere to go, so I buried the grief. And I turned to the wrong things to solve the problem. And it didn't work. I spiraled downward. It was a really bad time in my life. It was one of the hardest times in my life. I finally got help when a friend of mine told me to try the Men's Resource Center. And I did. I went in there one day and I sat down with a counselor, and it clicked. He helped me. He came up with a list of things that I could do to help myself to feel better. And I can honestly say that I wouldn't be sitting here today feeling the way I do if I hadn't gone to the MRC. They literally saved my life in a lot of ways.
And for guys that come here, the sky's the limit, but it takes time. And that's the key, is that we do our work slow, because it reinforces behaviors, it reinforces a lot of emotions, and it reinforces our thinking that, okay, I can do this. And if I pace myself, I can do that. And so it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling to be here.
So the Men's Resource Center offers the domestic violence or family violence emergency shelter. It's the only program of its kind in Canada. There's no other shelter for men who are leaving family violence or domestic violence within their home. And so we're in Manitoba. Men who come here to gain access to shelter, we're going to do a risk assessment. We're going to find out where they're at in terms of the violence or the abuses that are happening. Do they meet the criteria? And so we have, specific criteria for men, and that is that there's an immediate risk for their safety. If there's not an imminent threat for their safety, they have a safe place to go to, they're not going to access our shelter, but they can access our support services within the programs here. So whether that's through drop-in or short-term counseling, for some going into our long-term program or to group therapy is what they need. For those that do qualify for emergency shelter, we're gonna do safety planning. We're gonna make sure that they have a plan to guard themselves from those who are using abuse and violence against them. People are looking for safety, people are looking for love, people are looking for an opportunity to connect with one another. And when that doesn't work out within a relationship, often they don't know where to go to. They think that they have to kind of suck it up, or they have to kind of move on, and that's just a part of life. But there's just no support services often for men. When they finally hear about, and it's usually from past clients, that they were able to access shelter and get the supports that they need to regain that confidence of living in a home. For many of our men, the first few nights before they come to the Men's Resource Center, they're living underneath a bridge. They're living in a bus shelter. They're going to a homeless shelter, but they're not homeless. They're victims of domestic violence. And so we want to change that. We want to change that in the province of Manitoba. We want to encourage people throughout Canada to say, what's available for men when they experience domestic violence. And we're leading the way. And so we're quite proud of the program that we provide here.
Something for me is being part of a helping profession. That's what it is. I like helping people, and being here, just being able to help both the counselors and the people just in general is very helpful and motivating for me to come back. The first few steps through that door could possibly be the hardest part for them. So me being there at the front of the door saying, "Hi, welcome," is actually very, very, very important.
It's a phenomenal experience as a counselor here, to walk with men through that process, and to walk with my colleagues through that process too, because it's not just a one-man team here. We all work collaboratively with clients to ensure that they have the best resources that are available to them at that time.
And the fact that we have a men's resource center is such a huge benefit. It's time that we recognize that guys need help too. We're not the Rock of Gibraltar, we're not the strong man, we're not the big time, muscle-bound, impregnable forces. We're human beings.
Don't be afraid. It's all good here. If in the rare circumstances that we can't help you ourselves, we know people who will, and there are ways to make things better, even when it seems like there are no options left.
He can cry for hours while he learns to tough it out. He can take a shot on the lips and learn not to pout. He can lay into loneliness and still wake up for school. He can take the long way home 'cause everybody's cruel. He can see his brothers in the crosshairs on the screen. He can pull the trigger 'cause they're all his enemies. It's not that he's crazy and he wasn't born this way. It's not just the drinking, yeah, he's got no one to blame. He's strong as a rock with a silent, hard place too. He's just playing out what a man has gotta do. He's got shining armor hammered right into his skin. He can make it all okay, but he can't let you in. He wants you to warm his bed and break his fall at night, but he can't feel the rhythm till he makes you do it right. He can promise, he can stop, he is hard to understand. He doesn't want to be his daddy, but he's got no other plans. It's not that he's crazy and he wasn't born this way. It's not just the drinking, yeah, he's got no one to blame. He's strong as a rock with a silent, hard place too. He's just playing out what a man has gotta do. In the mines, on the front lines and pulling double time. They say that he's privileged and he acts like he don't mind. Hands like hooves stay in the groove while someone lays a beat. He never danced to his own songs, but at least his children eat. He can just imagine them, he can take one for the team. He can hear the echoes in his castle down the street. It's not that he's crazy and he wasn't born this way. It's not just the drinking, yeah, he's got no one to blame.
Come and see us. Drop by on Monday. Have a cup of coffee. Feel comfortable first, then talk to a therapist. And from that point, your life could change to where you want it to be. Take that first step, and we will be able to walk with you.
He can cry for hours while he learns to tough it out. He can take a shot on the lips and learn not to pout. He can lay into loneliness and still wake up for school. He can take the long way home 'cause everybody's cruel. He can see his brothers in the crosshairs on the screen. He can pull the trigger 'cause they're all his enemies. It's not that he's crazy and